Hello and welcome to this lesson on scalars and vectors. By the end of this video, you'll understand the difference between these two types of quantities and learn how to calculate or graphically determine the resultant of two vectors. Scalar quantities. Let's start with scalars. A scalar quantity has only one thing, magnitude. Think of it as just the size or amount. It tells you how much of something there is, but not the direction. Some examples of scalar quantities are distance, how far you've walked. Speed, how fast you're moving. Time, how long something takes. Mass, how heavy an object is. Energy, how much work is done or stored. Temperature, how hot or cold something is. None of these have directions. They only give you the size or amount. Vector quantities. Now, let's talk about vectors. Unlike scalars, vectors have both magnitude and direction. They tell you how much and in what direction. Vectors are often represented by arrows, where the length of the arrow shows the magnitude and the direction of the arrow shows where it's pointing. Some examples of vector quantities include force, a push or pull in a certain direction. Weight, the force of gravity acting downward. Velocity, speed in a particular direction. Acceleration, how velocity changes, both in size and direction. Momentum, the quantity of motion, with direction. Electric field strength, the force felt by a charged particle. Gravitational field strength, the pull felt by an object in a gravitational field. Resultant of two vectors are right angles. Now, let's combine vectors. If we want to find the resultant of two vectors that are at right angles to each other, like two forces or two velocities, we can use either a graphical method or a calculation method. First, the graphical method. Imagine drawing two arrows. One arrow shows the first vector, and the second arrow shows the second vector, at right angles to the first. The resultant is like drawing the diagonal line that connects the tip of the first arrow to the tip of the second arrow. This diagonal is the resultant vector. Second, the calculation method. Let's say you have two forces at right angles. One is 3 newtons along the x-axis, and the other is 4 newtons along the y-axis. To find the magnitude of the resultant force, we can use the Pythagorean theorem. First, square the 3 Newton force, so 3 squared is 9. Then, square the 4 Newton force, so 4 squared is 16. Add those two values together. So, 9 plus 16 equals 25. Now, take the square root of 25, which gives 5 newtons. So, the resultant force is 5 newtons. To find the direction, either use a protractor or use a simply trigonometry ratio called tangent. Divide the force in the y direction, which is 4 newtons, by the force in the x direction, which is 3 newtons. This gives you 1.33. Then, find the angle whose tangent is 1.33 using tan inverse. This angle is 53 degrees. So, the resultant vector has a magnitude of 5 newtons and a direction of 53 degrees to the horizontal. In summary, scalar quantities only have magnitude, while vector quantities have both magnitude and direction. You now know examples of both and how to find the resultant of two vectors at right angles. Thanks for watching. Be sure to practice more examples on your own to fully understand these concepts. Until next time.